Okay, everyone, I know we still got some folks filtering in, but we're going to get started with the very last piece of our program today. Hang with us for another hour, promise. We're going to be having beers on the dock here and over at Coronado for the after party in no time. But right now, we're going to have a conversation with Felipe Spiegel from Anheuser-Busch. He's the president of their high-end division. There's really no question that AB InBev, now with 5 craft breweries and 1 craft cidery even, that over the last 4 years they've established themselves as pretty much the top U.S. craft acquirer and a legitimate competitor now in the craft beer category. There's been, plenty of speculative ink spilled on their role in the space, their long-term intentions. But 2 things are abundantly clear and really not up for debate. They're definitely interested in participating in the craft space, and they're willing to pay for it. Today we've got Felipe here, who helped engineer the company's recent spat of craft purchases, including Elysian Brewing, 10 Barrel Brewing, and Golden Road. Got a Golden Road in my hand, so Meg, if you're watching, thank you for the beer. And he's going to talk to us a little bit about how they evaluate some of their craft brands that they're talking to, and just give us a little bit of a glimpse into what they're doing in the craft space. Felipe, come join us on stage. Come join me on stage for a little one-on-one interview. Round of applause for Felipe.
Cheers.
Welcome.
Thank you. Humbled, excited.
This is an honor to have you here.
Oh, it's an honor for me to be here. I mean, so many beer and passionate business people, so excited just to be part of the whole event.
I know that when I've gotten to the Brazilians, we've done something right.
Did a lot right.
Yeah. So let's discuss this high-end unit that you're in charge of. You're the captain of the ship. What are some of your goals and objectives with the high-end division? What are the brands in there beyond some of the craft brands that I think most of the people know in this audience? And what are the opportunities that you see?
You got to hold me tight with the time, right? Because I speak a lot, I speak fast and with energy. But I think first it starts with what excites us with what's happening in the high end, right? I mean, what we saw, and we saw the data from Nielsen today, I mean, is that craft and high end basically puts the beer into occasions that we weren't before, right? And I normally use the story, and when I moved to New York 4 years ago, for the second time, you would go to a bar and you would see craft cocktails or cocktails or wine lists, but you wouldn't see craft beer, right? And you go today, any decent restaurant, any decent bar has a well-curated craft beer menu, right? And obviously New York follows many other centers, right? So for us, what we have seen is that a craft and high-end in general is an opportunity for us to get beer as a category to grow. And the vision that we have for the business unit is basically we needed a dedicated group that is wired different to be able to deliver to the consumers what they need. And we want to take the lead, right? I mean, our dream is basically to make beer the most sophisticated beverage. And we know that if we excite consumers, if we get great beers out there, we're going to grow. And that's basically what we're really focused on.
How big is the high-end unit now, I guess in terms of your actual staff, your employees?
So try to compare. I mean, first you had mentioned about the brands, right? So my lead brand is Stella Artois, and I also take care of the other imports that are above Stella in terms of price points. I also am responsible for Shock Top, and Andy leads the whole craft division, reporting to me. If you would compare us to Boston Beer or 10th and Blake, we're smaller than them in terms of size today.
Okay, and what's been sort of the biggest struggle, kind of rewiring the mindset within AB to think more like a craft brewer? And what have you learned through that process?
I think the big learning for us, when you think about high-end and craft beer in general, it's much more similar than different, right? People first of all, it's about the beer. Second, I really relate to some of the presentations we had today, but it is about the experience. So it's about a pint at a time or a connection at a time, and that's very different than mass marketing any consumer goods a product, right? So I think that and then what my biggest work on the last year has been to basically find the right people, right? And also, we looked not only in beer, right, or people that were passionate on beer. All of our group is at least its own server, but we have masters, up to several masters. But we also looked into wine, liquor, and foods to guarantee that we had the right group, right? And I think the key thing on this one is we're really committed to our vision on the long term, right? I mean, we're really committed to what we believe. So when you're committed to long term, it's almost like any of the short term challenges don't really matter, right? I mean, it's because you can invest time to get the right people, to educate them, to create the right culture, to hire people to do what you want to do. Right. So we're super excited with year one. It was crazy, but still much more to come.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly been a crazy 2015 for you guys. Investing here in California with Golden Road, and some of the other craft brands that I mentioned earlier. What's that integration process been like? What have you learned from them? What are you trying to teach some of these craft brewery entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I wish I could teach something. I think we're learning much more than I'm. It feels to me like every day is my first day in the beer business, right? Even though I've been more than 15 years at it. I think we learn a lot. I think Goose Island, everyone asks the first question that comes, to me or to people at Goose is, what has AB changed in you? And no one has any idea of how much AB, Goose has changed AB, and from then on, the effect of the new craft partners that we have been having. So I think a few good examples, right? I mean, in terms of integration, we have been leaning much more. We have been empowering our partners to be able to make things happen, and basically simplifying a lot their lives, right? So basically, our key focus is to work on procurement, on the back office, on human resources, and stuff that none of you guys like to do anyway. So you can focus on the things that you like to do, which is brewing amazing people, is interacting with consumers, interacting with retailers, wholesalers, and making it happen. So it has been I think especially this year, with the new partnerships, we have evolved a lot in terms of our model into integration, right? So it's less integration, much more empowerment, and much more leaning on them. And I think one small comment, we created a craft advisory board. Basically, all the founders, we meet every 3 months, have amazing beers, talk about innovation, talk about what's happening on the industry, and talk about what's not working. And I lean on them to teach me what we need to do to be successful with our vision.
And are you guys talking sort of across all the brands, saying, hey, I'm Meg at Golden Road. I've recognized that perhaps this isn't working at 10 Barrel. Here's a solution that might work. Is that how those conversations look?
No, I think that it's much more leaning on partners like that have experienced it before and talk about things. I mean, we mentioned integration, right? And there's a common thread in terms of how do you win on the long term, right? I mean, how do you win in a sustainable way? And that's a constant discussion you're going to have, and just having a super experienced panel of people, talking about different ways, and it's just a learning overall, right? But we really count on the founders and the current presidents to take the decisions locally on how to steer the brand.
What is long term for you guys? Because Goose Island scaled pretty quickly to a national footprint. Is that something that you guys will look to do with some of your other craft brands, or will it be slower? And will that long term time frame begin to shift a little bit?
I think we talked today about what's the right speed of doing it, right? Or having a good plan, and I think I learned through the years is that you got to have a good vision of where you want to get. You got to have amazing people and a strong culture to get there, and you're going to figure it out. I think the speed of doing it is the speed of what the consumer is going to tell you, right? That said, giving concrete examples to what I mean by that is Goose. We ended up scaling too fast, right? I mean, and even if you talk to John Hall, he would say, I wish I had my brewery reps. I wish I could have done my events. I wish I could have told my story better. And we had pretty successful growth in 2012, but we suffered in 2013 because we got the distribution, we didn't have the rate of sale. So, even though we did grow, we still grow double digits, was still a healthy growth. We were losing a lot of placements because we went too fast too soon because we could.
Right.
And I think that we took that learning, not only for Goose now, but for Goose as an example, is basically you got to tell your story, and it's got to be one consumer at a time. They got to sample your product in your event, or you're going to hit them digitally, right? They're going to love your product. They got to know your people, and if they love you, they're going to buy you. And I think there are other breweries as well that are doing that super successfully, right? Even growing fast pace, but respecting basically the speed that the consumer is willing to know you and buy you.
But that's not what AB traditionally does with its brands. It innovates from within, rolls out a product, plugs it in, has 90% distribution with the flip of a switch. So this is a very different way of thinking within your organization.
That's why we're a dedicated group.
And clearly, I mean, you need to have the high-end division to accomplish that. Is it difficult to balance those two priorities, to balance the priorities of the high-end division within this larger organization that is so geared towards, the flip of the switch kind of a move?
I think we're learning every day, right? And it'll be silly to come here and say that we have it all figured out. I think the key thing on this one is I think we're in a moment where we're actually having a super healthy balance, right? So if you look at the performance of the brands, talking about IRI information, so public information, right? I mean, we're year to date with Guzan at 35%, right? I mean, super respect, Simon and Duvel, right? But talk about IPA stake, and I mean our IPA was number 17, six medals in JBF was number 17. We're going to end the year in number 4, right? RI we're going over 260%, right?
Wow.
So I think once you focus on doing, on standing for something and doing what you believe in a consistent way, growth can come. And out of the other craft breweries, right? I mean, 10 Barrel, out of Oregon, growing 30%. You have Elysian growing 50%. Even with acquisition and coming announcing early in the year and integration coming in April, and Blue Point is growing 60% this year. So. And pretty much on the same footprint, right? I mean, but it is all about concentrating on what you stand for, and not trying to do what kind of taking the time to tell your story and be consistent, right?
Is that growth coming from a push or is it coming from a pull? Because 200+% growth on a brand like Goose IPA, I mean, clearly there's got to be a lot of pushing that brand out.
Yeah. We talked about the importance of rate of sale, right? I think the key learning the key learning I think that we all have to have is, especially I think when you talk about off premise, is this dynamic of rate of sale. Because if you don't hit that, you're going to get off. And we're seeing a pretty balanced growth out of IPA. If you look at it, it's pretty much an even split between rate of sale and distribution. So we know that obviously when you grow that leverage, you shouldn't expect the same growth next year, but we're confident that that's a healthy growth.
So that's what the craft portfolio looks like today. How do you see it taking shape as things evolve over the next, 12 to 18 months? It would appear to some that you have a regional strategy developing? What are your sort of thoughts on how you continue to develop and the kinds of breweries that you would be interested in acquiring going forward?
Yeah, that's going to be a long, probably a long answer, right? I think at the end, we're first 99.9% of my time and my team's time is on organic growth, right? So we're super focused on making amazing beer and telling our story, right? So even if we stopped any partnership today, we think that we have an amazing portfolio, an amazing team of partners to be able to succeed in the future. That said, when we look out, the three major things that we look at, I mean, first is the beer, right? I mean, it's at the end, because of the proliferation today and because of even the shared kind of resources and ingredients, right? People, tend to use the same yeast or, tend to use the same hops or malts. If you're not pushing the boundary, your beer is going to taste average, right? It's going to be good, but it's going to be average, right? First and foremost, we believe in great beer, because if we're brewing great beer, consumers are going to come, right? I think that the second thing is you got to stand for something, right? And I think that we talked about this I think more important than choosing what to do is what not to do, right? And again, in a world of proliferation, if you cannot stand for something, then it's super hard. And if you look at our portfolio of brands, being the import brands or being our craft partners, they're independently of where they sit, the brands and what they stand for and the beers are completely different, right? So they could all of them live in the same bar, and you wouldn't you would love them all, right? And I think the third one is the culture of our partner, right? Basically at the end, we want people that believe in what we believe. They have amazing vision, that believe in beer, that want to that make. And I think there's an important point on this one is that in our industry, sometimes you kind of confuse the brewery or the brand with the leader, and that's something that doesn't resonate with the culture of our company, right? I mean, we have a super active board. We have a lot of active executives, but you cannot pinpoint one person in our entire company that was the one that created or the one that did it. Right. So for us, it's very important to have something that's bigger than themselves, because that means that's timeless.
Yep.
That's going to last for 100 years, 200 years, or for 500 years or 600 years. That's some of what our brands stood the time, right?
So then, if I'm hearing what you're saying correctly, one of the criteria would be finding a brand not only that can stand on its own, but that has a team behind it that's creative enough to kind of carry it forward, long after the founder leaves.
I think for me the best selection criteria is if you can have a good night or a good afternoon of beers and enjoy each other, that means that it can last forever, right? If that doesn't work, it's not going to work for either side, right? So I think, and I think at the end that's super exciting. I mean, I think the best meetings I have ever had in my life are the meetings over beers with my craft advisory board, right? I mean, it's such a great group of people.
So, who are you having beers with then?
Have the list? You guys have the list? Or? I'm having a lot of beers.
Yeah. I can imagine. Whereabouts are you having these beers, Felipe?
Cheers.
Yeah. Is there a limit to how many breweries you can buy? I mean, what's a manageable number for you guys, ideally?
I think it comes back to the discussion we had. I mean, if we had a crystal ball, right? I mean, or if the plan, I don't know, and I think that at the end doesn't really matter, right? And I think we're super excited with the portfolio we have. Again, coming back to the point, we're super focused on doing what, but we're a company that is very focused on making great beers. right? And you might dispute that you prefer other styles of beer and you don't like a lager or a light lager, but we make unbelievable beer and have been making unbelievable beer for hundreds of years, right? And we're also super focused on people, and I think these things are the things that really connect us, right? And I think if we find the right partners, great. If we don't, we're super happy with the partners that we have today as well.
Interesting. So you're having a lot of beers, you're having a lot of discussions. What are you learning through the process of having those discussions? What are some of the things that these brewery owners are indicating to you about, their concerns about the space and where things are headed? Is there a common thread that you can kind of run through all of your conversations and point to and say, wow, this is something that a lot of these craft owners are bringing up that they're concerned about?
And this is not kissing up, right? But what I'm going to say is, I think I told you that this event is super well structured, brand, and I think the themes are super relevant. So I was back there taking my notes. I think we talked about many of them, right? I mean, I think at the end, I think there's a combination of things. Right? First, everyone is discussing where the market's going to, right? And how can I be on top? Do I follow something that's happening? Do I stick to what I'm doing? Do I lead into something else? I think there's a second one, which is we always started in this because we love beer, right? And it's not because I started in Anheuser-Busch that I didn't start because I love beer. I had options to go to banking, to other places, but beer was something that got me super excited with, right? And that said, when companies get big, you got to worry about other things, right? I mean, it's about beer and it's about business, right? And it does take you away, from the things that you loved when you started, right? So, how do you balance that out? The things that you love, right? And I think the third one is succession, right? I mean, I think again, we all started, on something that we believe, but we all want to make it the lasting, and there are multiple options, right? But and I think at the end, kind of selling my pitch, right? I mean, on one, why do we believe we're credible and trying to be humble, but not, that we're the best options out there? Because I think it's a combination that we do bring a fair value to the table, but it's almost like we bring a guarantee that you're going to have someone with the stewardship of your brand for forever, right? That you're going to be able to have your culture maintained. You're going to have to, going to be able to have your employees better off. You're going to be able to have your teams focus on what they love to do, which is making great beer and connecting to consumers and retailers, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no question that having Anheuser-Busch as a partner improves, the employee situation. I'm not convinced on the cultural piece of it. I mean, cultures change as new partners come in, no matter what. But another question that has crossed my mind frequently.
That time will tell.
Yes, I mean, time will tell.
Yeah.
But I mean, cultures change regardless, no matter what happens as things develop, as new people enter an organization. I mean, even internally at our company, people have come and gone, and our culture has changed in the 5 years that I've been there. So it would seem to me that having another partner enter the business and take it over, would accelerate that process. But
that's an assumption we're making.
It is an
it's
assumption.
okay.
It is
I
an
respect
assumption I'm
your
making.
assumption. It's okay.
The question really
Just don't need to agree, right?
We don't have to agree on everything. The question that I really have is, as you guys come in and you continue to develop throughout the craft space, and you're making the pitch that, hey, we're going to carry your brand for 100 years. Like we're gonna be the steward of your brand for a very long time. Is there ever a point where you stop and look back and say, this brand just isn't working for us. We need to kind of let it go, or we need to not pay enough attention to it. Clearly, we're still very, very, very early in the process, but has that thought ever crossed your mind that you would ever need to turn your attention away from one of your newly acquired craft brands?
I mean, I think it's super early, right? I think at the end, what really, again, coming back to the discussion of why we're so excited, right? I mean, first is if just by the assumption that we believe that this trend is not going away, right? I mean, it's about the elevation of beer. It's about getting beer in more occasions. It's about giving what people are willing to pay and are wanting. So this is not going away, right? I mean, I have no idea where it's going to land, and it really doesn't matter, right? I mean, as long as you know that's something you got to do. I think the second one, it's related to the discussion, is when you have amazing beers and you have brands that stand for something that's super unique, right? I mean, you stick to that, right? So I don't know. It's almost like a naive belief that if your vision is right, you know, you're going to have to change a lot of things on the way, but you're going to get there. So I don't know. And I think the interaction that we have had with Goose is a super example of that, right? Everyone on the industry and even our most avid consumers were looking for us to screw up something. And we have proven year after year that the beers and the innovation and the excitement and their stories and everything. So, you know, when I go into a room and I see Tony Balker, I see John Hall, Greg Hall, the team super excited, for me, that's the proof that we're doing it right. And now, you know, obviously, time will tell if 100 years we're going to be able to do that. But for the last 3, we have been super successful. And the consumers are telling us that. And our team is telling us that. So you know, again, we're super passionate. And we're super respectful and humble of our role, right? So,
well, the Budweiser billboard on the side of the TD Garden is now a Goose IPA billboard. So
you told me that.
yeah. So I don't know if I'll see it in 100 years. Well, I won't be around in 100 years, but I don't know if that sign will still be there in 100 years. But you know, who knows, right? Yeah. You guys are clearly getting it out there.
We got to select people that are better than us that can guarantee that's going to happen. Right?
The industry's changing. I never thought I'd drive by a Goose IPA billboard on the side of the Boston Garden, and there it is, lit up in green.
Well,
so.
it actually got us to do this, right? Because it was Goose IPA on the United Airlines flight that clicked something into Meg's mind.
So the story goes.
Yeah.
Felipe, cheers.
Thank you. Thank you very much.